God of the universe, maker of the stars. Who am I that you would know my name?
Good evening or morning or whatever time it is that you're listening. This is episode number 74 of Life on Purpose with myself, Mike Clayton, and the one, the only, our very favorite brain nurse, Alex Stiles.
Thanks, Mike. Good to be back.
Yeah. I'm thinking that for a lot of people, you might be the only brain nurse that they know.
It's not a bad thing. I mean, do you really
Okay.
need to have constant exposure to a brain nurse? Because that could be not that you have a friend, but rather that you've had a traumatic experience. So
Yeah.
it could be fine if I'm the only brain nurse. That would be fine.
You as a friend at times can be a traumatic experience. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
aware of this.
Yeah. See, people don't understand what goes on behind the scenes here, in that I am the one that gets the questions from Alex that are not aired. And it's like, oh, I got a question from Alex. Well, it's one of those between you and Paul at our congregation, and others. I mean, others, Chris, and pretty much everybody. You guys keep me thinking all the time. So I thank you for that.
Absolutely. It's a delight. I
Yeah.
enjoy costing you sleep. We've mentioned that before. You've cost me some sleep today. Just today we were talking. I hear you'll be airing the what cost me the sleep on Thursday, I believe you said. Is it your Living Torah portion?
Yeah.
Y'all need to tune in for that because he's cost me a little sleep with what he went over on that.
Little extra on the mezuzah that I had not ever seen before. In fact, I went to lunch with a local pastor here today, and I shared that with him, and I think he was almost somewhere around tears. I'd tell you, it was a interesting revelation there. So, okay. Yeah. Well, kind sir, what kind of questions are on your mind tonight?
Well, we've went through such serious topics, and we have some other serious topics we'll be going over. Definitely because these questions need to be asked. But I thought we'd go a little lighter route today.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about love, Mike.
Oh.
Yeah. Uh-oh, here we go. So suppose we talked about childhood last week, and suppose you've went through it, and suppose you've hit somewhere your mid-teens, late teens, wherever that event is that suddenly you turn around and you realize, oh, women exist. Something like that, right? Right. You go from they exist to they start turning your head. All right. Somewhere around there. So that's a very wide open field there when you start this idea that you have no idea what you're getting into when you're whatever age there. When you're looking for, truly looking for love. And many people approach it. It gets approached in different manners. Some people, will keep this whole section. Don't worry, parents. We're going to keep this whole section PG. But suppose some approach it strictly in a physical manner and call it love, while others are truly out there, looking for a lifetime spouse.
Yeah.
And there's no difference in that whether you're man or woman. They each approach this differently. There, each of us approach that in the same manner. And if I turn around, I believe very much that this is an important question to lay before someone who's gone there before and who has studied, what does the Torah and what does God have to say about this? Because if I turn to someone, say my age, suppose I'm anywhere late teens to 20, and I'm looking for, I'm on this whole dating scene, if you want to use that, and I ask someone my age, the answer I'm going to get is something along the lines of, "Oh, she's hot. You should totally go out with her." And that's some pretty shallow advice there. But it's understandable in one sense if we realize and understand that the first thing you will notice about someone can be whether or not they are, say, someone your age. The first thing you can notice would be whether or not they're attractive. I can look across the room, can know absolutely nothing about someone, but you will immediately know whether you find them attractive or not. I think the difficulty comes if I may, in that I think that the first thing you recognize maybe needs to be one of the last things that you base your decision on.
Okay.
I'm going to pause there. I don't want to, because, and we're, so as far as going from there, I believe anybody who's followed any length of time knows that you're married,
Mhm.
Kathy, right? Been
Mhm.
married for, as you said, she'd lasted longer than the Israelites in the wilderness.
She's
that
had more
she's-
trials than they did also. Yeah, we've been married 43 years now. So yeah, three
43.
children, almost to be 8 grandchildren, and down to 1 dog now. So
Okay. Um, so, you were not, now you're living this life as a pastor and a minister, however you want to word this. Can you hear me now?
okay, you said
Okay.
however I want to word this. Okay.
Right. So, you were where was I going? Okay, found my thought. Lost it. You were, at least at the time when you met Kathy, um, you were not a minister at that time. This was pre-ministry, right? When you and Kathy first met.
Mm.
Those of you just listening, the eyebrows went up. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about this meeting Kathy.
Okay, there's a right way to do things and there's a wrong way to do things in life.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
Sometimes you are blessed enough that the Father works in you, through you, and directs you in spite of your hurts and your stupidity. Okay.
Mm.
So I would not, Kathy and mine, how we were both up in Alaska. I was working air traffic control of the Army. Kathy was in the Army also. She was going to be stationed up there. We ended up working together, and we got married for really for all the wrong reasons. And I'm not going to go into those reasons on the broadcast right now. But
Sure.
the truth is that looking back at it, the there was reasons that I thought we got married, and then there
Mhm.
were reasons that I figured out we got married. And the reasons that we figured out, the main reason that I figured out finally was that the Father's hand was upon both of us, even though for both of us, our childhood, our upbringing, all those things had numerous issues in there. Not to get too personal,
No,
because
sure.
she's not on the program, but it was really looking back, the Father had his plans, and this takes me back to a lot that you kind of you ask in your conversation there coming into this. I want to go to one specific thing that you said. If you look over at somebody and say, "Wow, she's hot," you need to quit looking at anybody except for yourself.
Ooh.
Okay, because
Okay.
you have now begun the process of the problem.
How
Uh,
so?
you're not going to buy a car. Okay, you're
Right.
not going to buy bananas at Walmart. You're not going. You're what you've done in that statement is, first of all, cheapened the individual that you've looked at,
Absolutely.
because you
Yes.
have turned them into a piece of merchandise.
Yes.
This would be the same as whatever sport you're in, or whatever hobby you do, and you're going to buy a drone, and it's like, wow, look at it, you have turned this person who somewhere in your warped mind you're thinking about a relationship with, you've turned into a piece of merchandise for your own pleasure. Let me tell you, anybody out there, that is a recipe for disaster. Never enter into a relationship for yourself.
Absolutely.
Okay. People say that a marriage is 50-50. No, it isn't. It's 100%, 100%. Both people have to give 100%, and especially for the male, um, I'm going to say this gently, but parents, this is a little bit of a little bit of a, warning on this one. I'm not gonna, this is not over the top, still PG in my mind. But men, the basic difference between men and women is that men are supposed to be givers,
Mhm.
women are supposed to be receivers.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, this is anatomically, Mr. Nurse, this is anatomically correct,
Right.
but that which is in the physical is also in the spiritual.
Right.
So if a person is going, if a guy is going into a marriage for what he can get from her, he's acting like a girl.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, this goes into all kinds of things we can talk about later of what is a woman's, and I know this goes against all kinds of politics and political correctness and all the garbage that's been fed out there. But from my experience in counseling, in marriage itself, in books I've read and people I've talked to, a woman's number one need in life is to feel protected and secure.
Absolutely.
So if you go into something and if you go into a relationship wanting to get, you've already broken that.
That
Okay.
makes sense. Absolutely.
All right. So with that, I want to go to something that was said by a close friend of this program, Jared. Jared and Lael just got married, as many people know, the famous Jared. He, if when you meet Jared, it's gonna be like, wow, he's famous, because he's like the last person you would think about being famous. But he's an incredible young man, and Lael is an incredible young lady. But he came to me last year and said, Mike, I want to find, all I want to do is find a wife and have a family. He said, but I can't find anybody. And he said, after he met Lael, he was reading Proverbs 31.
Mm-hmm.
I had,
Yes.
I had told them to read Proverbs 31 just in the meetings we were at. They decided it was long distance. He was in, Indiana, I think it is. She was in Virginia. They were conversing on the phone every night. And so every night they began to read the Proverbs together and to pray together. What a great
Mhm.
foundation for a marriage. And
Mhm.
Jared told me one time, he says, well, I got to to Proverb 31. And he says, the word says, who can find a virtuous wife? He says, I started thinking about that. If if the Almighty is saying, who can find her, that means he has hidden her.
Mm.
Okay.
Mhm.
So the spouse that you are looking for is hidden from you. And so in order to find the spouse that he has for you, you must seek him so that he will
Ah,
reveal where he or she is. So if you're doing the looking, you're probably not going to find her. If you're him or her,
that's fair.
if you're seeking him, the creator, the one who created you and knows you better than yourself, then
Mhm.
he created a companion helpmate for you. I mean, Adam is lonely in the garden, and guess where Eve's
Mhm.
at? He's wandering I'll give this back to you in just a second. He's
Mhm.
wandering
Mhm.
all over the garden, naming the animals,
Mhm.
monkey, dog, cat, horse. A couple of them, he probably went, what in the world is that? Okay. Yeah. God had a sense of humor on that one. I mean, look at a camel. That's a sense of humor.
Right.
He's
It's-
looking in all the
yeah.
wrong places. Alex, Adam is looking all over the garden when Eve is actually inside of him.
Fair. Yeah.
And so when he starts seeking the Father and starts telling the Father what his needs are, the Father revealed where Eve was.
I like that very much.
Hmm.
I like that very much, largely that in my own relationship, God just sort of reached out and dropped Mary into my life
Mhm.
there. And that we very much, we met on a blind date. I'm this little hermit, very, very happy to live in my house and never go anywhere, which makes it really hard to meet anybody. But not when he's in charge. Yeah, so wife and I met on a blind date there. So absolutely, looking back, I can also agree with you that she and I very much married for the wrong reasons at the time. I've shared before, and Mary has shared as well, that I married her because she made me feel better, and she married me to fix me.
Mhm.
Terrible foundation.
Mhm.
There, terrible foundation. But God had plans in spite of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we're at this point though of trying to I think you've
Hey,
oh
Alex,
man, you've touched some. Go ahead.
guess what?
Yeah.
I didn't hit the oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I did. It's recording. It just
Oh,
didn't show
good.
me it's recording. Yeah, it's recording. Never mind.
Mike had a momentary panic attack there, y'all.
Yeah. I've done that before, by the way. They changed they changed the desktop. And so now if I don't move my mouse, it doesn't say recording. Okay. I'm sorry I took you off your. Okay, go.
That is fine. You touched on this concept of looking at, first of all, valuing the person and the woman.
Yeah.
Not to look across and see them as I want that because it's shiny.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair? Like if I look over it, I want that because it's pretty. It's like looking at something. I want that because it's shiny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that's fair, right? Also, you miss. It's the old cowboy saying.
Okay,
But oh,
we're having, besides my issues, we're having a little bit of internet issues. You said we miss?
I certainly did. We miss so much if we just focus on the surface,
Mhm.
on just the physical appearance.
Mhm.
If you meet my wife, you see a picture of my wife. She's a very pretty woman. If you see her in motion in person, she's beautiful.
Oh, yeah, she's great mom. Yeah.
Right. Like all of the things that you have no idea in a photograph.
Mhm.
Because there are also, you could come across a guy who's absolutely, what are women supposed to say? Cute? I don't know, whatever women call a guy they like the look of. Not that we want to be called cute, but whatever. We didn't get
Yeah,
asked.
and I don't even want to. Yeah, I'm
I
with
don't want
you.
to
It's
know.
like whatever they call, I don't care. You know.
Right.
Yeah,
But
is
let me
that
tell
guy
you,
cute? I don't know. I don't want to know that.
right. So, like, let me tell you, there's some beautiful women out there, brothers, who are nothing but trouble.
Yeah.
All right. Because you don't know anything just by what someone looks at. There was a psychologist I love. He says, listen, being beautiful means basically that the person is symmetrical and free of diseases. And I love that because it was such a mockery of what we put so much emphasis on.
Okay.
But here's this concept. So what we've covered so far, you shouldn't be looking for just beauty, and God will generally take care of you in spite of yourself.
Mhm.
What do you think you could tell if you could look back at, God made things work out in spite of Mike Clayton. But if you were to look back at your younger self or look at these generation, what would you tell them on this whole dating scene? Yes, God will take care of you, but how could you set yourself up for success? in this looking for love. We've
Mm.
started with step 1 of look for God and
Mhm.
fix yourself. And my word, that's an entire podcast there of fix yourself before you seek someone else. But where do you go from there of setting yourself up for success, if you will, in trying to find this lifetime partner?
It's a difficult question because I can't go back.
Mm.
Okay. I can look at what I was given in counsel. I had no one as a mentor in this
Mm-hmm.
area of life. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in a generation where women were pretty much treated like merchandise.
Mm.
And that's kind of how I was taught. Okay. Um, so I can't go back and change anything. I can only
Mm-hmm.
move forward from here. What I would do if I was just telling somebody that is, starting out in this endeavor right now is, I guess it comes down to Daniel's, or my son Daniel's company is Kingdom Builds, and on the side of on his truck, it's the verse, "Seek first the kingdom of God," and so
Mm-hmm.
that's out of the book of Matthew. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be given unto you. I would teach someone to seek the Father, because in seeking the Father, you're going to find the best for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, you're going to give the best self that you can to another person.
Which
Okay.
comes back around to
Mm.
that you need to be looking to what you can give to
Mm-hmm.
someone else, not
Mm-hmm.
looking for the spouse for what they can give to you.
Mm-hmm. All the issues that you have, when you enter into a relationship, you figure out that the luggage you brought becomes the baggage that they have to carry.
Mm.
Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
carrying baggage is carrying luggage is okay. You get to put it in the overhead bin on the airplane or in the cargo hold. Carrying baggage is something you just got to it's just like a weight that you have to carry. And
Mm-hmm.
so trying to take care of your own self,
Mm-hmm.
seeking, and this is why I have through the years, the number one book that I have recommended to young people, old people, anyone that is alive and will breathe is Miles Monroe's book, Pursuit of Purpose. It's sitting over here on my bookshelf. Um, Figuring out why you're here. Don't get married to figure out why you exist,
Mm-hmm.
because you're going to then mess up somebody else. Figure out why you exist, prioritize finding the purpose of your life. Wow, that'd make a great podcast. Seek that. And in that seeking, that person that was created for you is going to come into your life. And you're not, I mean, you're going to be like, wow, how did that happen?
Absolutely.
Okay. I mean, you have a sister-in-law that just happened like that. It's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
wow. And all of a sudden I'm doing a wedding again. Well, I won't give any details of any of that because that's personal to them, but that's kind of how that happened. And so
Mm-hmm.
let me give you, this is a rabbinic thing. And I'm not teaching this as a doctrinal so much, but just an idea. So when you go to a store, um, and let's say you're going for groceries,
Mm-hmm.
and someone says to you, you need to go and you need to pick up some bananas. My question is, do you choose the bananas or do the bananas choose you? What causes you to be standing there in front of the whole rack of bananas and you look at this one bunch of bananas and say, that's it?
Mm.
Is it possible? This is, again, rabbinic teaching that I'm spinning off of. Is it possible that that bunch of bananas was grown for Alex Stiles and family?
Mm.
And so when you went to the store, because Mary said, Alex, we need bananas, you went to the store and you walked in the store and you randomly selected bananas, it was because they selected you. Is that the involvement that we consider that the Almighty desires in our lives, that he would go to that extreme? I'm tongue in cheek here. I'm arrogant enough to believe it is.
Right.
And why? Because I've seen that. I've seen that over and over and over in my life. Alex, I can't tell you the number of times that I've gone to buy a car and I knew what I wanted. It's not out there. It's not, I can't find it. I hardly ever buy and I've hardly ever bought a new car in my life, usually used cars. And all of a sudden it will like appear in front of me. And the person, I was at a dealership and I was buying a Toyota Tacoma, and the dealer, oh no, it was when I bought my, my last truck. I had a blue Sierra, GMC, and it was on the lot. This is one of the most gorgeous trucks in the world. This midnight blue AT4, gorgeous. I drove by it going to a wedding, or no, a funeral over in Huntsville. I came back. I'm like, wow, that's a beautiful truck. I was going back over in that area. I see it on the lot. I'm like, I can't believe nobody's bought that. Right? It went down. Okay. I don't know how that works either.
See that.
Yeah. But I drive back by there. So I stopped. I'm like, wow, they just marked the price down. So I called the guy and I said, I'd like to get some information on this truck. I'd like to come by. We made the deal. They gave me an incredible deal. And the salesman, we're sitting there talking as the paperwork's being done. And he said, I don't know how we couldn't sell that truck. He said, it's just sat on the lot for 3 months out in the front. There's not a scratch on it. We could not sell that truck. And I looked at him and I said, well, sir, that's because the truck was mine.
Yes.
And he looked at me like, well, what'd you say? I said, because I have been wanting that truck for about a year now, and God gave me the desires of my heart. And so the reason you couldn't sell the truck is because it wasn't really yours to sell, because it was already sold to me. He stood up, Alex. He said, Mr. Clayton, hang on just a second. He went and got the owner of the dealership, brought him back, and said, Mr. Clayton, could you tell this man what you just told me? And I could go through in my life and tell you over and over and over and over again things that have happened like that to me, from a car to people that I've known that were just like, all of a sudden I have this incredible favor. I had your oldest son on the golf course today. He wants to learn to play some golf. And so had James out there. We had a great time together. And interesting enough, that one of the PGA pro of our golf course, I've just gotten incredible favor with him. And Mike's become a very good friend of mine. And he's gonna look it out. I did a video of Alex's swing, and he wants to take a look at it, and he's going to give me some feedback, and he'll probably be up on the range sometime with James, teaching him. that's not because of my personality is so wonderful, because it's not. It's because God has given me incredible favor in all kinds of things like that. And so if you will trust, if a person will trust him at that level for the little things in life, can you not trust him for probably the most outside of Messiah himself? It is the most life-defining decision a person will ever make, the
Mhm.
most important decision a person will ever make, because that decision will not only affect you, but will affect others positively or negatively.
Yes, absolutely. I, there's plenty of marriage advice all to be had. Some of it sounds pretty good, makes somebody like, well, that makes sense because I've done this for 12 years and I can agree with that.
Mhm.
Others I don't. I look back and realize, and one thing I have found true is that if you look at a woman, don't necessarily ask, as we've said, don't ask, what can this person do for me? There's also a fair statement when you look and ask, if you're with a woman, would this be a woman I want to raise my children?
Mhm.
Because there's a fair statement that when you start thinking in that manner, because that idea is that you stop thinking of yourself in this scenario, start thinking of the other person and the repercussions that you and that other person being joined to marriage have upon the world and have upon your future generations, have upon
Mhm.
your children. Because there's a huge part of that. If you want to start getting over your own problems, back up and look at a bigger picture, including specifically if you'll back up and look at a bigger picture with the idea that there's a God who loves you, who's in control of it all,
Oh, yeah.
exactly as you've just said.
Yeah.
There's an idea that I want to touch back on this, the idea of a woman receiving and men giving. There's also a great deal in that, in understanding that that is how you are strengthened as a man or woman, is to receive as a woman and to give as a man.
Exactly.
I work with a great deal of, obviously, as we've talked before, a great deal of men who have uh, wrecked their lives, whether some tragic event happened to them, particularly if they end up in any way crippled.
Mhm.
Now, crippled is a in some ways it can be a decision. Handicapped, crippled. You can have injuries that remain with you forever, but it's up to you whether they wreck your life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me say that if I say crippled there, understand some
Yeah.
crippling injury, debilitating injury. Um, Men start falling apart the moment they can't provide for their family.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of times, if you look at, I see this scenario where I find the wife who is trying to fix the husband by constantly getting to him and doing everything for him. And he continues to fall apart. Because at some point, as the man in the relationship, you have to understand that whatever it is you can contribute, you have to get up and contribute to that relationship. Because I've found that whether the injury be physical, whether the injury be mental, I have pulled out of some pretty deep, dark places of depression by recognizing that I needed to give and provide for my family. I
Mhm.
have pulled through some great periods of depression by realizing, hey, even if I can't see anything positive in this, I am giving and providing and contributing. Um, it can be as simple as coming home at the end of, say, 12-hour shift, and I'm tired and I'm grumpy because I've been treated like dirt by
Yeah.
somebody, and you want to lose faith in humanity, try going to the medical field.
Yeah.
Uh, but suppose I come home and I can just be worn out. And suppose, my wife's feet hurt. It is peculiar, makes no sense that my giving my wife a foot massage would somehow make me feel better about my day. But it does,
Mhm.
because that's what, as the man, you were made to do, was to give. And that is how you will be strengthened in the
Mhm.
relationship, is giving.
Well,
We can go
yeah.
so many directions there.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to this very simple thing that nearsightedness, when you're only looking at yourself,
Mhm.
how fulfilling is it to stare in your mirror? After a while, it gets a
Not at
little
all.
boring, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, unless you get some
Um,
serious narcissism going on, that mirror gets pretty boring.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
like what I see there.
No, no. Narcissism is a crazy thing, and that would be a program of itself because life is all about me. But when life is about other people, when it's about serving our Creator, when it's about other people, the best way to get out of depression is to start giving,
Mhm.
to start pouring into somebody else's life. That works pretty much 100% of the time. And so,
Yes.
once again, going back to setting a lot of the stuff to the side, you mentioned the shiny things earlier.
Mhm.
Kathy and I were up in Alaska and did a little bit of gold panning, not much because I don't like cold water. Um, Contrary to popular belief, it doesn't actually freeze at 32 degrees when it's running in a stream. So we did a little bit. There's really, both gold and fool's gold shine equally. Okay. And
Mm.
it takes discernment. I've seen people come in and go, look at all this gold. And it's whatever that pyrite or whatever it is. It's
Yeah.
fool's gold. It's worth absolutely nothing. But then, they didn't find anything. Why? Because they didn't have the discernment. They were looking for shiny things. If all you're doing is
Mm.
looking for shiny things, um, you might find you might find something worth something. You might not. But in the end,
Mm.
the tragedy is you don't know the difference.
Mm.
Okay. You don't know the difference between what is shiny and worth something and what is shiny and not worth something. I'll give you an idea. I went gold painting one time. It's before I met Kathy with my facility chief of the air traffic control tower I worked at. And me and Robbie we went out gold panning, and we were, it was kind of a party atmosphere kind of thing. And this was something we're doing on the side. We came back and we had a little pill bottle, and there was a few flakes of actual gold in the bottom of it. And we're, around his house for a little while. And Robbie finally says to his wife, says, hey, where's that pill bottle? She said, oh, I threw it down the drain. He's like, what? She said, well, I saw something in it, but I didn't think it was anything. She said, I washed it out. So this little tiny bit of gold that we had, it went back into the ecosystem because she didn't understand
Mm.
the value of what she had found. Part of life is
Mm.
figuring out what shiny thing has value and what shiny thing has no value.
Mm.
I read a thing from some of the words of Steve Jobs
Mhm.
before he passed away. Steve Jobs, of course, one of the founders of Apple Computers. This man had megabucks before he died.
Mm.
Uh,
Mm.
how much money did he have when he died? None. Okay. In the end, I've done a lot of funerals. I've never seen a hearse with a U-Haul.
Right.
Okay, you,
Yeah.
you don't get to take it with you. So you need to be careful of what you're going after in life, that it is something that is worth going after in life. And Steve Jobs did an article. I don't remember the whole thing, but he said at the end of your life, you figure out that a watch that is worth $30,000 tells the same time as the watch that costs 30. They
I
both,
think maybe the greatest
yeah,
tragedy of that statement is stating at the end of your life.
yeah.
Wouldn't we live a far better life if we could figure that out sooner?
Yeah, that's what I said to Barry. That's what started this thing, a couple weeks ago. Is I said to Barry, by the time you figure out what's important in life, you die. Wisdom would be going back wherever you are today. Okay. Whether you're in your 30s, whether you're in your 20s, whether you're in your teens, whether you're 66, figuring out what is important. I went today to with James on the range. Went and got a bucket of balls. I hit a couple of balls just because I could. But watching James hit balls did not improve my score for the next time I play. But that doesn't matter. Because what mattered today was when I handed him a club, and this is silly, in light of eternity, hitting a little ball and then chasing it and hitting again, I know is silly. I got that. My dog is smarter than that. But with that being said, I saw James pick up a club, hit a ball after some coaching, hit it 70 yards. The smile on that young man's face was all I needed for the whole day. It doesn't matter
Absolutely.
what score I make next, the next time I play. That smile today was worth everything. Figure
Absolutely.
out in life what's important.
Mhm. That's absolutely true. And it's something that I end up considering frequently, both in my job
Mhm.
and the continued exposure to death that I have, and realizing that how close you are to death is not necessarily determined by the how old you are.
Mhm.
We like to think that we're only going to die when we're old. But that realizing that coming home, I can have a really terrible few days at work. And, terrible days are usually not enough of my nurses working. And, they're having terrible days and watching families mourn.
Yeah.
And just a couple of those days will definitely put in perspective of what I want to be doing when I get off. And it's certainly not chasing the shiny things, as we said,
Mm-hmm.
rather spending time with my wife and spending time with my children and realizing the importance and value of that. And then coming back around to exactly what we said, what can I do for them and what can I give to them?
Mm-hmm.
Because spend a little time in that and you'll quickly understand that, chasing your own desires is pretty empty.
Yeah.
It's pretty empty.
Yeah.
And as you've said, looping back around to the beginning of this podcast, that would be a very empty foundation for a marriage, to just come home from all that and need from my spouse, to need her to fix me from my bad day, would take all of my baggage for my 12 hours of work there and lay it all on her, would drive our relationship apart.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can, come home and realize I'm no longer in this situation of watching people dying, but I'm in this scenario of life.
Yeah.
And now I come home to give to her. Suddenly I've made my day better. And that wasn't my intention, but I've already made my day better by
Mhm.
not focusing on myself.
There you go.
Now that's hard to do. We're not going to pretend, oh, this Alex guy, he does that every time he gets off work. No. You've seen me, Mike. You've seen me downright grumpy after a couple of. I can get to the points where I'm not much fun to be around.
Oh,
But I can realize.
see, that's part of life, though. That's part of life, and that's the other aspect of this thing, Alex. Is there's a verse that talks about when one person stumbles, if they have someone there that can help get them up, And I'm
Yes.
really loosely quoting that one. The tricord is not easily broken. Okay. If
Hmm.
you have the right person in your life, then when you
Yes.
have that day, when you have that stumble, it's a funny thing in marriage that, you know, Kathy goes through her times, I go through mine. Okay. I'm not the totally level person that I try, you know, people, hopefully people try to or see. I've got my days, and but Kathy's always there. And it's
Hmm.
interesting that the Father orchestrates it to where those days are never at the same time.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, do I remember that all the time? No, I can't, you know, she listens to the program, so I can't tell you guys something that's, you know, not true here. I wouldn't anyway. But you
Right.
know, there's not all the time that you know, that I'm like, oh yeah, honey, you know, no, we still have our times. We're in this world. We're human. But if you have sought the Father and He's brought the right person in, it is not going to be that it's perfect, but it is going to be that it's fulfilling, that you're going to walk through it. Okay. But
Hmm.
if all you did was go after the shiny thing, um,
Hmm.
you know, there's days that the shiny thing's not going to be so shiny, because
Hmm.
you know they're going to be sick or whatever. What are you going to do that day? All right.
Hmm.
So once again, seek the Father. No one told me this. Not a single person in my life knew to tell me this. But if you will look at that verse and keep that verse in mind, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, then all these things shall be added unto you. That is a promise. And,
Mm.
you know, he's going to bring into your life what you need because he knows the needs before we even ask. He knows those needs. And
Hmm.
I would tell somebody, challenge him. You know, you're trusting him with the biggest thing there is in your life. I got it. And maybe, you know, you're getting a little, you know, you're seeing the time kind of creeping by, you know, the hourglass, you're watching the sand and it's like, um, are you willing to trust him with that? I have a good friend of mine who is one of the most incredible young ladies. I won't give a name. One of the most incredible young ladies I've ever met. She's single, and she's now in her 40s. She's still single. Has she desired to get married? Yes. Has she had offers? Absolutely. And she said no because she put the Father's will above her will.
Hmm.
Is a person willing to do that? Not understanding the Father's will, but are you willing to put his will, his purposes, his plans, because maybe there is something different for your life than what you're thinking.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right. You got a closing word there?
Ah, wow. I think that I hope this reaches out and helps someone out there because I also agree that no one was telling me these things. God just handed me the right woman in spite of myself. And also, there's a heavy statement in that because, as I said, neither you nor I were at the right point of truly seeking God in our lives when He gave us the right woman in our
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah.
So maybe if you're out there and you're constantly you're having these high anxiety over this dating scene, this relationship, seeking these relationship, maybe let go of some of that and understand that He's going to look out for you,
Yeah.
especially.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to look out for you.
Hey, after all, you might find out that he has plans for you, plans for good, not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. So seek him first. Alex,
Amen.
Enjoyed it. See you next week.
See you next week, Mike.
Who am I that you would know my name? What kind of love would walk through fire and meet me in the flame?